Chapter 1. The Broken Gear. You know, son, all my life I believed in one thing. When something breaks, you grab a bigger wrench and you tighten it until it does what you want. That is how I built bridges. That is how I raised my boys. That is how I lived. Plan, control, result. My life was like a blueprint, measured, exact, not a single extra line. And then, well, then the blueprint tore. The company restructured. That is the polite word they used. I was 65 and suddenly I was not an engineer anymore, just a man with too much time on his hands. The boys had their own lives, scattered across the country like leaves in the wind, and me? All I had left was the echo in this big empty house and that damn ringing in my ears. The doctors called it stress, but to me it sounded like a machine tearing itself apart, my own life grinding to a halt. One day my daughter-in-law, Lisa, she is a book-smart kind of woman, she pressed a little paperback into my hands. The Tao Te Ching, she said. Told me, Mel, maybe it is time to stop swimming against the current. I snorted. Current? Hell, I'm an engineer. I design the current. I tell water where to go. But one line caught me, hooked me like a nail in my pant leg. It said, "He who knows does not speak. He who speaks does not know." Now, I always loved telling folks how to live. My wife, my kids, my coworkers. Lecturing was my hammer, and every problem looked like a nail. And here comes this old Chinese fella, dead for 2,500 years, telling me to shut my mouth and listen? It was bold. It stung. And so I started reading. A few nights later, I was sitting out on the porch, rain tapping the tin roof. In the old days, that rain would have made me curse. It ruined my plans to paint the fence. But this time, I just sat there. I watched the water sliding down the gutter, curling around leaves, slipping past sticks, never fighting, just moving, finding its way. And something in me shifted. For the first time in 65 years, I thought, what if I stopped fighting? What if I let life flow the way it wants to flow? That was my first lesson. The Taoists call it wu-wei. Folks like to translate it as doing nothing. But that's not it. It's not laziness. It's action without struggle. It's like water. It moves, it shapes mountains, it fills every low place, but it never forces its way. It just flows. And I realized maybe I had been tightening bolts on a machine that wasn't even supposed to run anymore. Maybe the blueprint I trusted all my life had finally run out of pages. That night, listening to the rain, I felt like I found a crack in the wall I had built around myself. Just a thin little crack, but through it came air and the sound of water and the first taste of freedom.
Chapter 2. Drifting with the Current.
So I decided to run a little experiment. One day with no plan, no list, no schedule, no blueprint, just drift. And let me tell you, for a man like me, that was scarier than jumping out of an airplane back in the army. At least when you jump, you have a parachute. When you drift, you do not know where the ground is. I walked out of the house with no destination. Normally, I would head straight for the post office, bills in hand, moving like a man on a mission. But that morning, I just walked past it. No hurry. And then I saw it. An old maple letting go of its seeds, those little helicopter spinners we all played with as kids. They came twirling down, dancing through the air. I stopped and watched them, 20 minutes at least, just standing there like a fool with a grin on my face. But I was not wasting time. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was in time. Later, I wandered into the cafe on Main. Normally, I bark out the same order. Coffee, black, nothing else. Efficient, predictable, safe. But that day, I asked the barista, "What is the strangest thing you have got today?" She blinked at me like I had two heads. Then she smiled and said, "Well, we just made a lavender latte." I said, "Bring it on." Now, between you and me, it tasted like I had licked a bar of soap. But you know what? It was fun. It was different. It reminded me that life has flavors you cannot find if you never step off your own narrow track. That evening, my youngest boy called. As usual, he was all knotted up with some problem at work. Normally, I would have launched into a 5-point plan before he even finished his sentence. That was my style. Fix it, solve it, move on. But this time, I just said, "Tell me about it." And I listened. I mean, really listened. No blueprint, no wrench, just an open ear. And a funny thing happened. By the time he finished talking, he had already found his own answer. At the end, he said, "Dad, it feels easy talking to you." Easy. My son had never used that word about me in his whole life. That night, I realized something. Wu Wei is not about lying on the couch doing nothing. It is about stepping out of the way. It is about being like water in a conversation with your son, letting him find his own flow. It is about being like that old maple tree, dropping seeds into the world without forcing them to sprout. All my life, I built dams. I thought the only way to live was to control the river, to box it in, to tell it where to run. But the truth is simpler. Sometimes the real skill is not in dam building, but in swimming. Life is not an enemy you need to conquer. It's a river. You can thrash and fight until you sink, or you can lie back, float on your back, and let it carry you. And if you do, you just might notice the clouds above you, drifting just the same.
Chapter 3. My Father's Garden. Now, here's the strangest miracle of them all, my hearing. Or maybe I should say, that constant ringing in my ears. No, it did not go away. The whistle is still there, high and sharp like a tea kettle that never gets taken off the stove. But something shifted. I stopped fighting it. Lao Tzu wrote, "It is the empty space that gives things their power." I sat with that for a while, and then it hit me. What if this ringing is not some flaw in the system? What if it is just space, just background music in my life? Not a broken machine, not a punishment, just a sound. And when I stopped treating it like an enemy, something loosened. It did not vanish, but it lost its grip on me. It is still there, sure, but now it is like a quiet neighbor down the hall. You hear him shuffling around sometimes, but he does not run your household. That got me thinking about my father's garden back in Nebraska. Old man never went to war with the weeds. He never fought anything, really. He just planted what he loved. Tomatoes, beans, sunflowers, and watered those. That was his way. And his garden was the most beautiful thing you ever saw. Not because it was perfect, but because it was alive. So I started doing the same in my own life. Not in the dirt exactly, though I did plant some tomato seedlings right on the kitchen windowsill, but in my days. I stopped fighting loneliness. Instead, I just planted new things. I walked to the library, not with some mission, but just to sit among the shelves and breathe in that book smell. I made it a little ritual to buy one apple every week from old Mr. Chen at the corner store, and we would talk about nothing more important than the weather. And you know what? Those little seeds started to sprout. I did not shave my head or move into a monastery. I am still right here in Ohio. I still grumble when the Colts blow a fourth quarter lead. I still get restless on rainy days. But something inside me clicked. I no longer see the world as a set of problems demanding solutions. Now I see it more like my father's garden, a place to tend, not to conquer. Lao Tzu did not hand me answers. He did not fix the whistle in my ears or rebuild the bridges I burned. What he gave me was quieter, deeper. He gave me a little peace. He gave me the ability to hear the softer sounds beneath the noise, the whisper of the world itself, always there, waiting. And do you know what that whisper sounds like? It is the grass growing without permission. It is the river flowing without my blueprints. It is the oldest, wisest sound on earth. And the funny part? It has been here all along, in my own backyard, humming in the Ohio air. I just had to stop making so much racket to finally hear it.
Chapter 4. The Porch Light. You know, when a man gets to be my age, he starts seeing his life not as a road, but more like a porch light shining out into the night. You sit down in that old chair, you watch the moths gather, you listen to the cicadas, and you realize you never really were in charge of much. You thought you were steering the whole train, but truth is, you were just another passenger staring out the window. That used to scare me. As an engineer, I wanted control. Drafting tables, blueprints, timelines, everything neat, everything tight. If a bolt was loose, you tightened it. If a beam sagged, you braced it. But life is not a bridge you can calculate. Life is more like a stream winding through the woods. It will twist, it will flood, it will dry up in places, and if you fight it too hard, it will carry you off anyway, angry and cold. Took me 7 decades to figure that out. Lao Tzu whispered it thousands of years ago. Softness beats hardness. Water wears down rock. Silence holds more weight than noise. And by God, he was right. I used to think being tough meant raising your voice, slamming your fist, tightening every screw. Now I think real toughness is sitting quietly, letting things be, and not breaking apart when the world does not bend to your will. I tell my grandkids this. Life is not a problem you solve. It is a song you'll learn how to hum along to. Some days it is country, some days it is blues, and if you're lucky, sometimes it is pure gospel. The trick is not to control the song, but to stay in tune. You see, when you stop pushing so hard, life has a way of opening up. Strangers turn into friends when you give them time. The smallest routines, buying that one apple for Mr. Chen, watching the maple seeds helicopter down, become holy moments. You do not need fireworks to feel alive. Sometimes all you need is a chair on the porch and the sound of the creek after the rain. And let me tell you something else, friend. Do not waste your years thinking happiness is somewhere else, after the promotion, after the move, after the kids grow up. Happiness is sneaky. It shows up in the cracks, in the little pauses, when you stop chasing it like a rabbit in the field. It comes when you let yourself float for a while, when you trust the river to carry you where you need to go. Now, I'm not saying do nothing. No, sir. Life still asks for your hands, your sweat, your voice. But the difference is, you learn when to act and when to wait. You learn when to plant and when to let the weeds be. And you stop thinking of life as an enemy to conquer. It is not a war. It is a garden, a stream, a porch light on a summer night. That's the thing I want to leave you with. Don't get so wrapped up in fixing every broken piece that you miss the beauty of what is already working. Don't shout so loud at the world that you cannot hear its whisper back. And when life rings in your ears, do not curse it. Let it be your music. So, here I sit, a 72-year-old with a creaky back and a whistle in my ears, but a little more peace in my heart. If an old bridge builder like me can learn to float, so can you. Just me on that. And before you go, let me give you one small ask, porch to porch friend to friend. If this little story spoke to you, if it made you pause and smile or think twice about your own river, then stick around, hit that subscribe button. Not for me, well, all right, a little bit for me, but mostly for you. Because maybe the next story, the next whisper, will be the one that helps you see your own life in a softer light. So leave the porch light on, pour yourself something to sip, and come back again. We'll sit together, listen to the creek, and let the night do the teaching.